We are here at Outcast Brewing. It's the Brew Boys, and then I have to my right is Richie. He is the owner of Outcast Brewing. And I have Scott, the head brewer here at Outcast. And we're gonna just today talk about the beer, the culture, how they got started here. So Richie, I'm gonna start. Just how'd you get into the beer game?
It's a great.
You started up that way.
It's not as cool as you would think. Actually, my wife and I were. We bought MacArthur's Irish Pub here in town in St. Pete, and we were looking for some other commercial property, and we found this piece, and we came to check it out. And we walked in and saw the brewing equipment was here, and we started looking through the space, and I was like, okay, babe, this is a little different than what we were kind of thinking. I'm like, well, what if we did a brewery, but a brewery with a twist? Because I think the space is so unique here. That it kind of provided a little bit of a different aspect than you see, and that's
Right.
Not a knock against any other brewery, right? Because they're all great and they all have a space, right, in that place. But we thought, like, here, the building and the setup and the neighborhood, that it was so unique that it kind of needed to be more than just a tap room and an outside space. That we needed to bring like a more inclusive environment, right, to it. We wanted to have great beer, great craft beer. Have all the big hitters, that everybody loves.
Of course.
The stuff that people want to try. And so we decided, we were like, this is perfect. Let's get into this. And so we started doing a lot of market research. We hit probably every brewery in the area multiple times, saw what they were doing well, talked to the owners, found out what the hard lessons they learned.
Right.
And then started to kind of put together a plan of what we wanted to do. And then we started looking for a brewer. And I would say the response from that was actually overwhelming. We had over 200 people
Really
apply from all over the world. And we were kind of taken aback by that. And we were like, oh, okay, this is going to take some time, right? So, we went through the process, started, looking for guys with certain experience, startup experience, longevity, those kind of things, and started the interview process. And we found Scott. And, I like to brag and say that I knew straight away, and the team will tell you that it's true, that I was like, I'm done. I'll do the rest of the interviews, but Scott's the guy.
there we go.
And Scott was the guy. And,
Great, there we go.
We're all obviously super happy with that decision. That's nothing against the other candidates, if any of them are watching. But we just loved Scott's personality, what he brought to the table, his expertise, and he had done his homework. He knew the St. Pete game and knew what was already happening here, and it brought along all of his experience, as well into that.
Of course.
And so then he became a big voice, obviously, in the conversation as we started growing and started building and started changing. And that's really, I love beer, and this has been like a dream since college. My college buddies used to sit around and be like, what if we had a brewery? Wouldn't that be so awesome? And then it was
definitely
really cool for two of my best friends from college to be here on our opening weekend.
Oh, awesome. That's
and
great.
We were standing in the drive-in cooler looking at all the kegs. They were like, dude, he's like, we did it. Like, we did it. And I'm like, what do you mean we did it?
Yeah, right.
Like, yes, but we did do it. Let's start drinking some beer. So that, I think it's been an exhausting process.
Absolutely.
But it's been honestly probably one of the most fun journeys that I've ever had in my life. And then the last 2 weeks, obviously before all the crap happened last week.
Right.
But the first 2 weekends that we were open, to actually see people here and to see families and to see kids running around and, people in every space, and just people talking about how much they enjoyed just being able to go to a different experience in the same place without leaving. And that was just honestly super overwhelming. I think my wife and I are still trying to come to grasp with it.
Definitely will take some time, I'm sure.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
We absolutely are super proud of this place, and we think it's a really cool place.
It is an awesome place. And if we back up to when you guys found the space, you found all of it, you've owned the Irish Pub at this point. When you found it, for how long? How long did you own the Irish Pub before you guys started this place up?
3 weeks.
Oh, okay. Wow. So my question was going to be, once you got the pub, what lessons did you learn from the pub that you kind of have implemented here?
Yeah, I think looking at how you maximize space, right? Our Irish Pub, it's a small space, which is great for an Irish pub because that's the way they are.
Right.
But learning how to maximize each square inch that you have of space and making it, customer friendly. I think is one of the biggest things that we learned straight out of the gate with the pub, that we were like, oh man, I wish, this could have been like this, or this could have been like this. Unfortunately, some of those dreams are going to come true now because, unfortunately it was flooded during the hurricane. So we're gutting it and kind of getting to start from scratch a little bit. But we're not going to change a ton, but I think like learning from that, when we came into here, we really got into, okay, first of all, what's the workflow like behind the bar? Mm-hmm. In the tap room, and people are tasting, like that's going to be like the major thoroughfare. Like how does that work? Mm-hmm. From a customer experience coming in the door. And I think, we all like walked in and like kind of talked through that of like, what makes the most sense. And then we kind of carried that same mentality throughout each space. And we're able to, I think, to create a pretty fluid space, because opening weekend we were so busy. Right. And one of the greatest compliments I think that we got that weekend from a lot of the customers that were here was how well our staff handled how much like influx of people we had, like in just droves, and how quickly we were able to flip lines and get people their drinks, awesome. And do all that.
Definitely a big time thing.
I mean, that's a testament, number one, to our staff, who we hired great people. Mm-hmm. But it also is the workflow, and the way the space was utilized, I think really helped maximize getting those people in. So I'd say that was probably the biggest lesson that we learned, from the pub.
Sense. Yeah.
And, like I said, the brewing community here in St. Pete has been awesome to us. We had a lot of owners and managers and from, all the places stop by.
Yeah, it's got to be humbling. That's pretty cool.
And it's cool. And they're like, man, if you need anything, call it. And like I said, a lot of them we'd already talked to and, gotten some advice.
Yeah, definitely. That's
horror stories. They're like, don't do this, things like that. So,
right.
So we try to take that advice as best we could to put together, this lovely place.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a lovely place, and we got a tour of it. So when you walk into Outcast and you turn left and you see all the different rooms, it's like you have multiple different like bars or everything just all under one umbrella. Yep. How did you guys create that? What was the meaning behind that? And then also, can you walk us through each of your spaces that you have?
Yeah, so I think really the rationale behind that was when we started going out and doing our market research. We had two great friends that were a part of like this whole process with us, kind of walking us, through it, going to the breweries with us. But my wife and Lonnie, who actually does a lot of our finance and compliance and stuff for both businesses, they're not huge beer drinkers. So as we would hit some of the breweries, the options that they had to stay for a while were kind of limited. And so that was one thing that we noticed straight out the gate. And we're like, man, the four of us are having a blast doing this, but the girls aren't having as much fun as the boys are.
Understandable.
In this. And so when we brought that idea back here and we started really exploring the space, we knew straight away the big room, the stadium, as we call it, was perfect for sports. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay is a massive sports area. Yeah, we got the Rays up the street. We have Bucks fans. And then what's crazy, here is like so many people aren't from here.
Right. Yeah.
So on a Sunday, like, because we have Sunday ticket, there's so many teams represented.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're going to have an array. It's like the All-Star game in your room. Yeah.
I think last week, we had Bears fans, we had Bucks fans, we had Eagles fans, we had 49ers fans, we had Jets fans. There's a few of them here, I guess. So it's really cool to see that, sports. And on Saturdays, people were in their college attire and, watching the college games. So that space, I think, was kind of sort of a no-brainer. But the other two spaces, I mean, I can't personally take the credit for that. It's really my wife, that she saw the space that we call the craft cocktail room, the lounge. And she said, okay, if the boys are going to hang out here, she's like, I love football, but for so long.
Understandable, yeah.
And she's like, what I would rather do is be able to sit here with Lonnie and just be able to like talk and do stuff, and then us come like meet back with you guys and just kind of explore around and kind of meander about the place. And so we kind of carried that idea, and then we had this sort of dead space in between the two. And I'm like, okay, the one thing that I see a lot of people at breweries doing is ordering wine. But the selections aren't the greatest.
Gotcha.
There's like a red and a white most of the time,
Yep.
and then a cider and something like that.
Mhm.
So I said, if we're gonna do this, let's make this a wine room and a champagne room, and let's give like a lot of different options to people, and let's carry some stuff that's not just like garbage stuff, like like off the shelf. Like let's carry some stuff that people aren't gonna find on the shelf at Publix. Let's find some stuff that like people that really enjoy wine will be able to say like, holy cow, they have this. Like I've always wanted to try that, or and so I think like that piece has been really cool, like especially outside on the weekends when we have music, and you'll see people with flights of beer, you'll see people with pints of beer, and then all of a sudden you see somebody with a really nice glass of Pinot Noir over here.
Yeah.
And there's someone with a craft cocktail, and it's just like a really neat.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see people like even some of the like beer heads, that come in, like, like I want to try your IPA, and they want to do this, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're like, we got like Saturday, there was like 8 guys just all sitting in their craft cocktail lounge.
There we go.
Just hanging out.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and it was so cool, like just to see that, to see the space really be utilized in so many different ways. And so, that was really our thing, was we want to create a space that like, if you got a group of friends that no matter what their palate is, we got something for you. Whether it's a non-alcoholic drink, a beer or a mocktail or a cocktail, or a wine or a champagne, or any of our great beers that we have here,
for sure,
that you're covered, and so everybody can hang out and have a good time, and kind of make it an entertainment venue, bring in some great artists.
Absolutely, it seems like an entertainment venue.
Yeah, it's gone so far really well.
That's great.
All the feedback, except there's always an occasional person online that loves to like. Give you a 1 star or something that you're like, I don't even know what that means, but okay, we'll try our best.
Exactly.
But outside of a few things like that, I think most of the response and feedback that we've got has been awesome, and the neighborhood, Woodlawn around here in Kenwood has been awesome. And it's really cool to see the families roll in on their bikes.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah.
And all that. We had an impromptu 1-year-old's birthday party here opening weekend.
Wow. You can't beat that.
No. And I was like, this little 1-year-old, like, obviously never remember this, but they're going to be looking through their baby book one day and be like, where was my birthday party at? And they'll be like, oh, we did it at a brewery. And their kid's going to be like, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's a heck of a spot for a party.
Right. Exactly.
Now we're out here in the pavilion, which is massive, and you guys have a stage. I kind of want to get into that. And what was your vision when you kind of set up this? Because this is a huge piece of the puzzle, I feel like, for you guys.
Yeah. Again, making this an entertainment spot for people to be able to come and kind of do whatever you want. And when we have live music going, it's great bands, local people that we're bringing in. But we wanted to create a space that could be comfortable all year round.
Yeah.
And, let's be honest, like we live in Florida, like this time of year, it's not the greatest, time to be outside, in the middle of the day.
Most definitely not.
But with the shade and the fans, the mysteries and everything that we have, it's actually quite comfortable to be out here, in the evenings and even during the day. So we just saw this massive, space, and we're like, this just hasn't been used right, so we wanted to make it a lot more inviting. It was a little industrial when we bought it.
Okay.
Chain link fences and the brick pavers were here, but obviously the stage wasn't, the pavilion wasn't, and the container was basically storage.
Oh, okay.
And so we kind of transformed this into a space where when you do bring the kids, you can kind of let them have a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Playing games. Giant Connect Four and all that stuff.
Oh, it's a good game.
And the kids, are dancing, listening to music, and experiencing that. So our vision back here was to really make this kind of the place that people wanted to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think with the bar out here now and the seating capacity that we do have out here, it's on the weekends it's packed out here.
I can imagine. And so you guys have a stage. Is it live bands, live music during the week? Like, what do you guys have going on with the stage?
So right now on Friday and Saturday nights, on Saturday afternoons, we have usually a solo act that plays.
Cool.
Out here during the day, and then at night we usually bring in a band.
Nice.
And then on Friday night, we just have one band at night. They usually play from like 7 to 10.
Cool.
So not last weekend, we were all doing other things last weekend, but the first 2 weekends, we had like full bands
Wow, that's great.
Drums, bass, upright bass, like the whole 9 yards.
Gotcha. Cool.
So we've got a state-of-the-art, PA system for the bands to come in, so they're not having to, do all the work themselves. They're a great team that's helping, get all that stuff going. So there's a lot of really cool pieces, to this place, and we really wanted to utilize every square inch the best we could.
Yeah, no, you guys have definitely done that. And so that brings me to this right here, this container back here. What is that for you guys now? Is that a bar? Is that the bar you're talking about out here?
That's the little bar we created. And, we're able to keep, what do we have, 5?
So we're capable of 6. We got 5 out there right now.
5 in there right now. Okay.
Capable of 6. We have 5 out there right now. And we have some, ready to make drinks that are already out here. We got some of the sodas out here too, I think. Those have been really big hits. Our hard sodas have done really well.
Yeah.
The cherry limeade's been a fan favorite. But there's a lot of people that orange is starting to kind of make a comeback.
Florida orange.
It's starting to get up there. Yeah. So we thought like it would be annoying to have to walk inside constantly to go get a drink. So we were like, we need something out here.
Okay.
So we enclosed it and put a little mini split in there so it's comfortable for the staff. Wow,
I mean, this whole place is like one uniform thing. It all flows together. But I do have to ask, how did you get the logo? Because the logo is a raccoon that looks like he's a rock star. And how did that come about?
So that's a really actually interesting story. So Lonnie and Tyson, my wife, our friends, we were sitting down at dinner at our house, and we had just kind of started really okay, we're going to buy the building. We kind of started to negotiate with the owners, and we're like, we're going to do a brewery, and what are we going to call it?
Right.
So, I mean, we were throwing out a million names, trying to come up with something. And finally I was like, I'm like, we're not really downtown, but we are downtown.
Right.
We're in a neighborhood, but we're also not in a neighborhood. I'm like, it's just kind of on the outskirts or the Outcast. Yeah. And everyone's like, Outcast, I kind of like that. Yeah. And they're like, but what are we going to do for a logo? What's our mascot going to be? And I'm like, all right, well, let's just start thinking. All of a sudden, I just was like, raccoons. I'm like, everyone loves a raccoon, when you're watching a video of it, but no one loves a raccoon in their backyard at night.
That's true. You're
scary
correct.
to death if you're not expecting it. I'm like, so it's kind of an outcast animal that we call them trash pandas. You know what I mean?
That's it, yeah.
And I kind of felt like, Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of elevated the raccoon status.
It totally did. It totally did.
And then we have a Bernedoodle, Hank, who the main logo that you see outside where he's standing up with sunglasses on, that actually was inspired off of a picture of my dog Hank in the pool with sunglasses on. So I'll show it to you.
Yeah, definitely show it.
It doesn't make sense until you see Hank, and then you're like, oh, and I had to put it on my phone, right straight away, because so many people have asked us since we've been open.
Oh, are you serious?
They're like, where did you get the logo? And I'm like, it's my dog. And they're like, I don't even understand that. I'm like, all right, let me show you the picture. So there's Hank.
Oh, there is, yeah.
And his sunglasses.
Yeah, Hank is rocking some sunglasses.
That was the original inspiration there behind Roscoe, our raccoon, was my dog Hank.
That is pretty awesome.
Who's sometimes an outcast at our house.
Poor guy.
But yeah, that was really honestly, and the more we started thinking about the word outcast and kind of how unique our location was, but then also how unique our idea was for a brewery.
Right.
That we were like, we are kind of a brewery, but we're also kind of not at the same time, in the typical sense that most people go, oh yeah, tap room, brew house, outside, got it. And they're like, oh wait, what's this? What's this? What's this? And so I was like, we're kind of an outcast in the brew world too, because we've kind of done this in a little bit of a different sense. I don't know anybody else that's done it. I'm sure that, it's been done somewhere, but it's not something that you see often.
No, definitely not.
I would say that. I wish we could take complete credit for it. But I'm sure like I said, someone's done it before, but we didn't know.
No, it's awesome. Absolutely. And so now I want to start kind of phasing slowly into the beer. And what did you guys want into the beer culture here? When you started talking to Scott and you were like, okay, this is my vision. This is a style that I want. I mean, how did that all come about?
I think the first question I asked him was, could he brew an Irish red? And he was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. And I was like, all right, we need an Irish red straight away. We just talked about what his what his experience had been,
Gotcha.
what had done well in other places, and kind of what the current trends were. But then we also wanted to kind of create like our own lane too,
Mhm.
right? Because St. Pete there's so many great breweries
Tons.
here,
Yeah. It's
that are brewing great beers. And so, I think one of the things that's sort of gotten lost, I think, in the craft culture currently has been like everybody has IPAs, everybody has a lager, everyone has, a Kolsch, like people have imperial stouts, and they have their high APVs, and you see the same kind of palette, in between. It's just like, do you have a guy who can actually brew anything that's worth drinking? Is your first step. And then your second step is like, I feel like the brewery becomes a destination more than just about the beer.
absolutely right.
So what we wanted to do was create the culture of, this is a place for everybody, but also we wanted to create drinks that really worked well in Florida. And when it's hot and when it's this hot outside, like, I don't think a Russian Imperial Stout would be the way to go.
Yeah,
right now.
not too crushable. I would say not.
But the Kolsch that we have, so fresh and so clean, man, it's nice to sit outside and have a Kolsch,
Yeah, absolutely.
where our Trash Panda is actually a lovely little beer. It's kind of become my favorite. And, so we created in the beginning, I think, stuff that had a lighter touch to it, but that also fit a lot of the menu things that people wanted. And, with the Mexican lagers that we did, our first one, Yo Soy, I think if I'm transparent, we want to be.
It was the test batch, and it survived, but we had to touch it up a little bit.
Survived, but had to touch it up. And you guys have a Mexican lager right now too. Is that the touched up version?
No, that was the second brew of the Mexican lager.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So the first one, Scott wasn't as happy with. I thought it was nice, but we kind of settled on the idea of like, let's give it something to freshen it up.
Some citrus, and
And we did. And what's funny is it's become like a really big hit. And so I was like, I told you the other day, I was like, hopefully we can replicate that.
I'm not gonna be able to. It was the first brew, and luckily all the equipment here was very well kept. We didn't really have any problems starting up because Richie inherited all the equipment that was already on site from the previous company, and that was the first brew, and everything went relatively well. Yeah. Just threw in too many hops.
There you go, man. It happens sometimes, right? So now,
sometimes the greatest things are made like not intentionally that you were making.
100%, yeah.
And it's funny, like that Yo Soy has been a really big seller. People actually really dig it. I think it turned out like really lovely. Now that it's got the lime and everything, and it's like chef's kiss on it.
There we go.
So I think back to your question was like, we wanted to create our first palette of stuff that was like really drinkable right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now once December, January, February gets here and we're all like in our hoodies, loving the 70-degree weather and the low 60s, then we'll start getting into some of the higher APVs, some of the heavier stuff. Barrel age. Yeah. We've got some ideas on some of that stuff that's going to come, in the future that'll really start to expand, that menu palette out a lot.
For sure.
But we wanted to have the right stuff in the beginning for people to enjoy. Gotcha. And really get like, okay, first of all, their beer's good. Second of all, this place is really fun to be at. So let's keep going. And now we can start adding in those sprinkles.
Definitely,
of like,
the ball's rolling now, right?
Yeah, some of the fun stuff now.
Perfect. Well, we're going to get into now, we're going to take a break. We're going to get into the tasting with Scott and go over some of the beers that they have here at Outcast. So we'll be right back.
Excellent.